these goals so that we can establish some awesome goals for the next 5 years. And this will give the department heads, the employees, the city manager, everyone some goals that they can work on to push for coming up with what we feel as a city needs to be accomplished. The other thing too is I think we can put some of this, or we should put this out to the public and get some input from them before we finalize it, so. With that in mind, Pillar 1. This is the Pillar 1, it's connected to the good life, okay? So there's a lot of information here, but we have time, so let's go through them, should we? Bo, do you want to read the first paragraph?
Yeah, by 2030, establish Tremont City as premier family-friendly community by implementing initiatives that create at least 10 new recreational opportunities, 5 neighborhood connection programs, and 3 large-scale annual events. These efforts will foster a safe, welcoming environment where neighbors feel connected. Veterans and their contributions are honored, and residents enjoy life while preserving small-town charm and supporting thoughtful growth. The city will maintain an 80% resident satisfaction rate measured through biennial community surveys, ensuring all initiatives align with residents' needs and values.
And all these numbers that are thrown on there are very open for negotiation and discussion, okay? I just kind of threw some high-end numbers in there, and we may want to adjust, okay?
I have a question. Have
Yeah.
we done any resident satisfaction rates or surveys?
Yeah, we had, back in 2022, there was a survey done by USU that was put out, and sort of I believe it was sort of a satisfaction survey, kind of where people were at, what their concerns were. And then there was another survey that was done, I believe it was last year, kind of the first one was a benchmark, and then the second one was put out, and then the Main Street survey. So those are the 3 that I know of.
And we may have to, when we start to finalize this, bring in those surveys, see where they sat, and then that 80% residential satisfaction may adjust up or down according to those surveys, of course. So the detailed goals are the goals that drive this paragraph we just read up there. And so let's talk about the first one, strengthen community bonds. Launch 5 neighborhood connection programs such as block parties, welcome to the community initiatives, and volunteer-driven projects to strengthen bonds and inclusivity or unity. Now remember, this is by 2030, so it's a 5-year goal. I don't know. What do you think? You brought up some great ideas about what the police did in Riverdale. What was that?
So they kind of broke the city up into different precincts. Now, they would already broke up based on patrol routes, and we don't do that here, I don't think, right? It's just everyone's going everywhere. Yeah. Which I like, just because everything kind of flows and you get a good feel for the whole city. But the different precincts in Riverdale got their own particular block party throughout the summer. So they did 4 or 5 different block parties, and what they would do is they would either meet in a park that was in that area, or they would close down like a cul-de-sac or something like that for a few hours, and everyone would just come, and the police would grill burgers and hot dogs, and everyone kind of brought chips and salads and whatever else from the area, and we publicized it really well, and made sure everybody knew what was going on, and it was really well received. Hundreds of people came out to each one. I mean, who wouldn't turn down a free hot dog with a police officer? And yeah, it was great.
The thing to remember about these goals is these aren't things that we're doing. These are things that the department heads and the departments are doing. So, when they go to set their goals for the year, the police may come back and say, well, we would like to do this as a goal for our neighborhood connection program. and help drive towards those goals. And so it's our goal to set the bar for everyone to work towards. So I thought what we'd do is just discuss this first pillar and then see what changes or what you felt, okay? Lyle, Vance, you want to read the next one?
Enhance? Is that the one you want?
Yes, uh-huh.
Enhance public spaces for connection and relaxation. Develop 3 multi-use parks featuring walking trails, splash pads, and family-friendly activity areas to serve as hubs for community connection. And designate quiet zones or nature preserves for relaxation and mindfulness.
Okay. Mayor, you want to do the next one?
Sure. Foster vibrancy and enjoyment. Host 3 large-scale annual events such as farmers markets, festivals, outdoor movie nights that connect residents and celebrate the city's vibrancy.
And partner with local businesses to create unique, family-focused activities that enhance enjoyment and connection. Now, we already do 6 or 7 farmers markets, right? Yeah. So, develop 3, host 3 large, we'll kick that number up.
Things like the movie nights and, we've done those, and we have done those. And
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we count how many we're doing already and maybe add 1 or 2 more to that, and let's see what we can do to improve on that. Next is celebrate community gratitude. Establish an annual Community Gratitude Day with activities that highlight Tremont's values, growth, and heritage, reinforcing the city's welcoming feel, and encourage residents to share what they love about their community through interactive campaigns or events. You want to do the next one, Wes?
Sure.
Balance growth.
Balance growth and connections. Implement zoning policies that prioritize community-focused development, ensuring new growth integrates green spaces and walkable neighborhoods. Maintain the small-town charm by avoiding overcrowding and promoting thoughtful, long-term planning.
And naturally, that would fall a lot within our planning and zoning, so. And the last one, Bill, do you want to read that one for us?
Sure. Honor veterans and celebrate their contributions. And maintain and enhance the downtown square and memorial as a place of reflection and gratitude. Host annual events that recognize veterans and invite visitors to celebrate the city's unique heritage. Partner with schools and community groups to create educational programs and exhibits around the sacrifices of veterans and prisoners of war.
And this kind of goes along with what the governor's trying to do and with our Highway 102 and that. And I heard from someone, I loved the idea. I don't know where I heard it, but they were thinking of putting 4 stars at the stoplights. I love that idea.
in the intersections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make that whole 102 a really cool place if we had. So anyway,
Oh,
yeah.
Could I just
Uh-huh.
interject something right here? Tomorrow at 11:30, down at this Capitol, the legislature will make the decision
Oh, good.
and designate it. It'll
Okay,
be
good.
tomorrow at 11:30.
The outcome, by fostering a sense of gratitude, connection, and enjoyment, Tremont City will create a family-friendly community where residents and visitors alike feel a deep sense of belonging and pride. These efforts will sustain the city's small-town charm while supporting growth and preserving its heritage. What do you think?
I think we're doing about half of everything there, at least half. Unless you want us to develop 3 new multi-use parks.
Yeah. Yeah. We
We
want
know where the
these
parks are gonna come.
we need to push, you know what I mean, for improvement. And so we can take what we've got, for example, with the 3 large-scale annual events. Well, that might go up to 10 large-scale annual events. I don't know exactly what that number should be right now, but that's something we can work on. Are there some things in this area you think we need to put in or we need to take out?
Keeping in mind that this is a 5-year plan, I think that, one area I think we need to really work on is our parks, our, park space, and we're sort of really short on that right now. That's something we need to work on, but I like what you've got here, and I think that these are great goals to be working for.
On foster vibrancy and enjoyment, we're already doing a lot of those. Maybe we should break that out. It says up there, the goal is to host 3 large-scale events, but we're already doing farmers market. Maybe we should just break that out to where we're continue doing 6 a year or whatever we're doing, 5 a year during the summer months. Festivals, we got Tremont and Heydays, and we've already got movie outdoors. Maybe break that out where we've got a number on each one of them.
Okay. So how many farmers markers are we doing right now?
Starts in May and goes through October, whatever
July,
that is.
August, September,
every
October,
week?
5.
Every month. The
So
first
6?
Saturday of every month.
First Saturday
August, September, October.
6. 6 farmers markets.
Got heydays.
They do movies at the park already.
The library, or Zach puts them on at the library.
Did we do them
Couple of
last
those.
year?
What's that?
Did we do them last year?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The movie?
Yeah,
I
movies.
know my family went twice. So.
Twice?
I think twice we had, or they had them up there.
Heydays?
Maybe even 3
Movie
times.
night?
So, we could, if you want to push that a little harder, then you could add one more,
Well, and I think that would go in hand with balanced growth and connection as we're planning that we plan in parks as parts of those developments. We need to know.
And further down, there's a reference to green space and developing more green space as we move along, so.
I'm always amazed that I live at the trailhead right there, right? And I'm amazed how many people go walk that trail. It's busy.
Yeah, it's a good thing. We watch them on the other end as they make the
Yeah.
round, yeah,
It's
good thing.
So the thing that makes this work well is, like here we have 9 events that we've identified already. 2 movie nights, 1 Heydays, and 6 farmers markets, okay? So if we put up there, host 11 or 12 large-scale events, then the city departments can come up with what those events are. And, it may be something new or special, but we can let the department come up with what they think helps to foster vibrancy and enjoyment. Would you think for the 5-year goal, 11 would be a good one to put on there? We're at 9 already.
Yeah, I think that's safe.
Yeah, because I guess there's a movie night out on heydays too. Had a couple of movies out there, but hadn't one more, I'm sure. Or a
I
couple-
love the block party idea.
Oh.
I think that's a cool idea with
If Tremont's furnishing the.
police.
That'd be awesome.
When we, during one of the farmers markets, Brett and, I think it was just Brett and I, maybe you were there too, we cooked hot dogs for the public, and it was well attended, and something that, I think it's just a great thing to do, so.
So, let's see. Is there anything else
I would maybe
Yeah.
even propose that we have the youth city council host some sort of an event for the youth. Youth leading youth.
Like that idea.
That's a great idea.
So let's add that in
It
there. shall we?
engages them and gives them an opportunity to connect with youth in a different way that, hey, youth, we have this unique opportunity of the Borgstrom brothers. How do we get that to the hearts of your peers?
Yeah,
You know,
good idea.
because youth will listen to youth a lot more than they'll listen to me.
So one youth council annual event.
I think so.
At least,
Okay.
yeah, maybe.
Okay.
They're an active group, and,
Yeah.
and I think we
Caroline.
need to, I think they just need opportunities, and they'll run with them.
Yeah.
Under honor veterans and celebrate their contributions, the second bullet point, host annual events and recognize veterans and invite visitors. I don't know which grade it is that does Utah history and
Fourth grade.
Fourth and fifth, sixth. Maybe have the sixth graders come down when there are sixth graders to visit the
Memorial over here.
memorial down there, and explain what it is that's there when they're young. So every kid that goes through grade school and that type of stuff is being taken down there and shown, and maybe that'll create more respect for young kids.
And, as you talk about these, like that honor of veterans and celebrating their contributions, which department would that really fall under? And probably parks. I don't see that really being much to do with the fire department. It may a little, I don't know. But we may want to tag on some departments.
Like a committee? Do you think
Someone's got to take charge of that goal.
Well, the fire department already goes to every school for Fire Prevention Week. That should be somewhere
And we have a safety one built in, and so that would go in there.
somewhere
yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
Or maybe they could take it out with them to the schools, and explain what's beyond there. And so you're not putting them on a bus or whatever, but, I think it'd be good that every year the kids get used to the fact that they're gonna be talking about that subject.
Well, Memorial Day would be a good time to work with the schools and see if we can get them to come out, and have a program for them. If they have something planned, we have something planned for them. I think that'd be something they'd be excited to do.
So the one on, let's see, develop 3 multi-use parks featuring walking trails, splash pads, and family-friendly activities. So that means over the next 5 years, we would develop 3 more, or move forward with some of our walking trails now or something, but we would at least work on 3 new parks over the next 3 years, or next 5 years. Does that seem like, it seems like an aggressive number, doesn't it?
Well, I think that, as we involve Zach and, the other directors in this, they'll come up with, they've got a little more detailed information that they could, goals and things like that, so.
I mean, the money will flow to our priorities, right? And so that's
Exactly.
what we're setting
Exactly.
and one of the things that I've heard more commonly asked for than parks is probably like recreation facility, a basketball court, indoor, things of that nature, or turf. Because I've just heard so many people asking for that. So
And as we get through this, I think I identified recreation in another spot.
Okay,
So
got
let's
it.
watch for that. If it doesn't come up, then I think we really ought to try to kick that in there somewhere.
Pickleball courts and that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Okay, pillar number 2. Lindsay, you want to read that one? The paragraph under strategic SMART goal?
Yes. By 2030, establish Tremont City as a premier family-friendly community by implementing initiatives that create at least 10 new recreational opportunities, 5 neighborhood connection programs, and 3 large-scale annual events. These efforts will foster a safe, welcoming environment where neighbors feel connected, veterans and their contributions are honored, and residents enjoy life while preserving small-town charm and supporting thoughtful growth. The city will maintain an 80% resident satisfaction rate measured through biennial community surveys, ensuring all initiatives align with residents' needs.
Almost looks like the exact same one as
I
the
thought
other
it
one.
was,
Yeah.
but.
Well, let's read it. Yeah, it really is.
Yep.
Wonder what, I must have cut and pasted that one wrong.
I think all of pillar 2 is actually, yeah.
Yeah, the whole pillar 2 is the same. I'll pull it out here in just a minute. I think I've got it somewhere else. Let's go to pillar 3. All right, Lindsay, you get to read again.
Okay. By 2030, establish Tremont City as a model for safety, security, and well-being by enhancing public safety services, fostering a culture of safety, and creating an environment where residents and employees feel secure and supported.
Okay. So, detailed goals. Bill, do you want to start?
Yes. Safe and secure environment. Strengthen the capabilities of the police and fire departments with state-of-the-art technology, resources, and ongoing training to ensure rapid and effective responses. Develop and maintain a citywide culture of safety through education, collaboration, and proactive safety programs. Improve emergency response systems to guarantee access to help whenever and wherever it is needed.
Now, I know that we're really good at that area anyway. Okay, we do have quick response times, but you can always work on improving, I suppose, you know? So that's why I kept that one in there.
Brett,
Yeah,
what about them two, the fire department, police department, doing a once a year show what their technologies are to the rest of the people? You know, extrication or their drones or all that stuff to show what we're doing
Kind of a public safety night.
on our capabilities type
Yeah.
thing.
okay. Yeah, we have one in here, just a little bit down, called Proactive Crime Prevention and Community Engagement. I think we could put something like that in there, couldn't we?
Yeah.
I think you'd be better off by combining them too.
Oh, I do too.
Some kids like cops, everybody wants to be a fireman.
You've got it in the second
Well, the
bullet.
only reason don't come is if the firemen are there, the cops won't.
Under proactive crime, you've got to increase community outreach programs to strengthen relationships between law enforcement and residents.
Yeah.
That's where that could fit.
Where at?
The third,
Second bullet,
the second bullet down on the
under
third,
proactive crime prevention.
right
Yeah,
there.
yep. Very good. The next one, Bo?
Is it community comfort and well-being? Foster a welcoming and comfortable environment by ensuring public spaces, parks, and facilities are well-maintained, accessible, and safe for all age groups. Create 5 new affordable and engaging community activities or programs by 2027, promoting healthy and meaningful lifestyles.
So one of the things, if I may, one of the things I appreciate about the different goals and things, and you said that we're doing a lot of these things already, but by putting them in this kind of a format, it lends itself to asking the residents, hey, this is the goal we set. How are we doing in this particular measure? Are the parks being well kept? Are they pleasant places for you to go and bring your family and have a picnic? Are they pleasant just to even drive by and enjoy from the road? So even though it may seem like, yeah, we're already doing this, of course, that's fine. But by keeping it as a goal, we're keeping it in the forefronts of our minds and then enabling ourselves to ask questions of the residents, what they think about how we're doing.
I agree. And then things like, and then the safety piece on the end of that, you know, all of our departments, but parks in particular, ought to be doing safety rounds once a week or whatever on the parks, looking. Let's make sure everything is safe. Does something look unsafe? Let's get it fixed, you know. Just having their eye on safety, and then we can avoid some accidents at the parks and whatnot. And that may be one of their goals, you know. Okay, Lyle Vance.
So proactive crime prevention and community engagement. Develop neighborhood watch programs and safety workshops to engage residents in proactive crime prevention. Increase community outreach programs to strengthen relationships between law enforcement and residents, building trust and transparency. Reduce crime rates by 15% through these initiatives by 2028.
And we would have to go through on that 15% and find out what they're using to measure now, and then see if that 15% matches, if it needs to be higher or lower. I don't know. We'd have to work with the police department on that and see where we sit.
So are you talking major crimes or just our total case volume by 15%?
What we need to do is work with you on what that should be, okay? Because what would be the easiest to measure? And so that's pretty vague right now, but I think we need to work with you and say, this is the measure we're going to use, and then work with you and say, what do you feel would be a comfortable improvement over the next 3 years?
Because if I understand right, Cordova in the last meeting said something along the lines of crime rates have gone up, but that's actually a good thing. Let me
That's a good
explain
thing.
why.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll want to make sure that measure is
Exactly.
educated.
He's a little concerned, you know, that it's how we measure this.
Yeah.
I think they need to have a lot of involvement in how that
So-
is measured.
So we don't want to go and be setting a bunch of goals without working directly with you guys on what those measures should be, okay? And so that's part of this discussion is, just because these numbers are up here now doesn't mean we're just going to arbitrarily set these numbers and then you guys need to meet it. We're going to work together as departments to make sure we do that. And Blair, I think increase, the second one on there, increase community outreach programs to strengthen relationships between law enforcement and residents. I think we ought to say law enforcement and fire department.
Right.
And then that, what you were talking about there would fit in there if that's a goal that they wanted to set as something they wanted to do during the year.
You might want to combine that as emergency services with emergency management. You know, I think Nate's gonna take and run with that, but that's a real good thing for the community to, whether we send flyers or, you know, just things out there, how to look. Since the wildfires in California, that's a big deal.
I was gonna suggest that too, Wes, that, you know, Nate's coming tonight. Maybe we put another bullet point in there with Nate Christensen behind it. Community preparation, you know, earthquake, fire, whatever hazards
Yep.
it could happen. So it's one of our goals to always be looking at it.
Do we have, or have we ever done a CERT kind of a thing? in-
Yeah,
Yes, we've had.
a while ago we did CERT. And we had a really good program going.
Might be something to think about.
You gotta get it while it's fresh on everybody's minds, from the California fires and
Yeah.
them kind of things. It really has people thinking.
Yeah, earthquake is gonna be huge in our area. Don't worry.
Okay, next one, Mayor.
Yeah. Employee, workplace, and, economic stability and security. Support a healthy and varied business ecosystem by partnering with local entrepreneurs, agricultural leaders, and businesses to drive growth and opportunity. Promote affordable housing options and infrastructure that supports families and individuals at every stage of life.
I like this one because, you know, it takes in the affordable housing that we're trying to work on. And it also, this is where we can do a lot of our economic growth through this bullet point here.
Yeah.
You know, both industrial and local business growth downtown, so.
Right.
It's a vague enough goal, but I think we could work with that. And I would suggest that when we get somewhat of a goal, or when we settle on what we want to work with, then we pass this on to you, Bill, and you take it to your departments and kind of talk with them. Are there some things they think we ought to add in there or subtract, or, you know, get some input from them? Not necessarily set their goals, but to help us establish a bar, you know? Okay, next, employee and workplace, yes.
Insert in there really quick. Maybe it's worth putting another bullet point in that area too to highlight or put in the forefront Main Street. You know, that we will continue trying to increase the viability and the looks and the cleanliness of Main Street. We need to address it somewhere in that.
And I think I have that in there. I think. Let's
In
go.
another area?
Yeah, in another pillar, I think. So
Probably in number 2.
both of you hang on to those. Yeah, and I have number 2 here I can bring back, or I can, or at least we can read it together. Employee and workplace safety, enhance workplace safety programs for all city employees, building a culture of trust and security within the workforce. Provide quarterly safety training for 100% of city employees starting this year.
Monthly already.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you don't get your card.
Get your safety incentive.
Right. So that one, I don't
Well,
know if you
we
want to
can
rework
pencil
that
it
or
out.
whatever.
Well, it's up to you guys. Is there something that you would like to do on providing safety to enhance on it?
Here's the one deal that I've had with the fire department. They'll come over and give these guys just a quick CPR, choking, defibrillator, anytime they want. Same thing down to the plant. We try to do that in the winter when we're a little slower. So them guys offer some real good training that can be set up unless they have to go, you know? But I think they've come down here with you guys with CPR and defib. Same thing with us down there. Don't know if they've been to the library or whatever, but I think we'd be better off to bring them to here for that training.
I guess,
Maybe let's invite the rest of the employees maybe.
so I challenge you just to look at that line and see if you can enhance on it, if there's something that you can use that to improve on. If not, we can always pencil it out, but it's always nice to improve on safety just a little bit each year.
Like fire prevention and things that they can do to help
Right.
not have a fire and.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay,
Sustainability and growth. Partner with agriculture and manufacturing sectors to support sustainable growth and ensure these industries remain pillars of our local economy. Integrate safety and environmental considerations into city planning and zoning to maintain a high-quality life.
outcome by fostering peace, safety, and security, Tremont City will become a model of communities across the nation, ensuring that all residents feel safe, supported, and empowered to enjoy life in a positive and thriving environment.
Good.
Okay, Pillar 2, let me read, I don't know why, anyway. Here's Pillar 2 on connection. The strategic goal, position our city as the most connected, accessible, and innovative hub in the nation.
Pretty high.
Empowering residents and businesses to thrive in a modern, interconnected world. I just feel so strongly that our utopia and what we have available here can drive that. I really do. It's one of the best internets provider, well, fastest internets in the
And
nation.
stable,
Yeah.
and the stability of it.
So we can really run with that. And
We've invested.
Huh?
And we've invested in it
Yes,
for sure.
yes.
We need to capitalize.
Continue to invest.
so here's some sub goals. Number one, best place to work from home. I think that's a real positive thing we can do in this community. Ensure 100% access to and this is a high number, but ensure 100% access to the fastest internet in the USA, 10G, providing reliable and affordable connections for all residents and businesses. Anyway, we can't really, well, maybe, I don't know. It'd be a fun discussion, wouldn't it?
If any community can do it, we could. I mean, we're set up.
Yeah.
We would really want to foster like a Silicon Slopes North chapter and try to bring programmers this way. There's a huge industry and market for it. I'm in it. We can't find great programmer. I mean, it's a whole, but the median income is very high
Yeah.
for that group of people.
our housing and
work
everything.
from home. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so incubator type.
We
thing.
have, well, Weber State isn't a research university, but we have two major research universities within an hour of Tremont. And, it just seems to me like
Yeah.
we have the makings of just what you're talking about.
Number 2 on that is develop and promote work-from-home resources such as co-working spaces, community hubs, and remote-friendly infrastructure. I think that there's a lot of people that work from home already, and I think that could become kind of a niche for this area.
So yesterday, if they work for the federal government.
No kidding. As long as you don't work for the federal government, you're okay. Digital and physical accessibility, this is number 2. Build seamless connection across our city with integrated digital tools for at-home access to government services, healthcare, education, and commerce. Partner with reliable internet providers to maintain consistent high-speed internet access urban and rural areas. I think we do that already. I think we're already partnered with them because we're part of it. So we may blot that line out. Number 3, transportation and travel connectivity. Strengthen ties to aerospace, railroads, and major transportation routes, I-15 and I-84. Branding the city as the crossroads to the west. And I think that's part of what our branding was anyway. Connections or crossroads to the west, you know. So,
You think about the trucking companies that exist in our community, you know, and they're there because of the proximity to those
Major highways.
major highways, yeah.
Hey, Brett,
yeah,
I think some of them goals that we're already doing still need to be in there because it makes us make sure we're doing them. I
exactly.
think that's some we do them, but we need to leave them like the safety or whatever. But if we just take them out because we think we're doing, they might get lost. So I think we got to just
Oh, yeah.
keep.
Yeah, good point, Blair. Thanks. Okay, transportation and travel connectivity. Strengthen, I already did that one. Number 2 on that was enhance infrastructure to attract and support industries reliant on cutting-edge transportation technology. Something to think about. Or other kind of technologies.
Yeah, I don't think it would need to limit it to just,
Right. Yeah. Number 4, economic and industry collaboration. Leverage connections in agriculture, manufacturing, and logistics to position the city as a hub for innovation in these sectors. Partner with industry leaders in aerospace and technology to attract investments and develop next-generation connectivity solutions. We have a nice aerospace place that just is really close, and I think we could take advantage of that opportunity. Number 5, community and personal connections. Create vibrant community spaces and digital platforms to strengthen ties between friends, neighbors, and associates. Foster progressive and inclusive policies that build a welcoming environment for businesses, families, and individuals. And then number 6, big city services with a small town feel. Offer big city services such as healthcare, education, and recreation while maintaining an accessible, community-oriented atmosphere. Promote the city's unique identity as a forward-thinking northwest connection point with unparalleled digital infrastructure. Now, those are aggressive, but so that was number 2, and I'll get that to you guys, okay? And number 4. Okay, Lindsay, your turn again.
Oh, by 2030, enhance Tremont City's well-being by promoting health, transparency, sustainability, and community heritage, ensuring residents experience a vibrant, welcoming, and connected environment.
Okay, Bill.
Promote a healthy environment. Develop and maintain 5 new parks or green spaces by 2027 to increase residents' access to nature and recreation. Implement annual health programs focusing on fitness, mental health, and nutrition starting in 2025.
And that you know, the 2027 may be a little too aggressive. We may want to drop that back a few years, but
well, if it's a 5-year goal,
Yeah,
you know,
we could
maybe
do
you could just,
2030.
you could say 2030 right
Yeah.
there.
unless we wanted to do like 2 new parks by 27. But, you know, I think 2030 is a great goal, and then we just kind of, each year, this is what we're going to do to move towards that. So, Bo?
Foster openness and transparency. Launch a public dashboard by 2026 to provide real-time updates on city projects, budgets, and performance metrics. Conduct regular town hall meetings and publish progress reports and to keep residents informed. I feel really strong about that. I love that.
I think it'd be great. Next one, Lyle?
Emphasize sustainability and long-term vision. Adopt and enforce green building codes by 2025 to ensure sustainability development. And the next one is achieve 20% reduction in citywide energy consumption by 2030 through efficiency programs and renewable energy adoption.
Okay. Lyle, Mayor?
Strengthen connections to nature. Establish a continuous network of 5 miles of walking and biking trails connecting key areas of the city by 2030. Partner with environmental organizations to promote conservation and education. Yeah. I think these are the things that, this is the infrastructure that we produce.
I agree.
That makes it a community, makes it something where people want to live.
And, you know, for example, with the walking trails, we've got most of that land purchased already. This just gets us going. You know, it says, all right, it's time to start, you know, and here's our goals, what we're going to do. Let's see, which one we on?
Brett, back on emphasize sustainability, maybe, because, I don't know, achieve a 20% reduction in energy consumption. Maybe our focus should be on water. Maybe,
That's what I was thinking. The
I mean,
same.
I don't know about energy consumption, but water, we need to be focusing on
I
that
like
all the
that.
time.
I like that.
It could even be another bullet point, but I agree. I think that we've made some great headway on water, but it's always going to be an issue.
Okay, I'll put a water conservation goal in there of about the same. And should it replace the energy one, or should we do one of each?
One of the things I'm concerned about with the energy is measuring that kind of a goal. We don't maintain the metrics for that, and maybe we could get them from Rocky Mountain Power citywide. And I think it's a great idea, but I just don't know how we would measure it.
Okay. Some of the fun things about this is we get going on this, like the 2025 goal for that may be come up with a way to measure what our consumption is, and you know, and then if we then all of a sudden we have that baseline in play, and then we can start to measure after that point. And remember, we can sit down again next year and say, oops, we were a little too aggressive in this, let's adjust this. And so it's fluid, you know.
Another one we could put in there is like 100% adaptation to secondary water, so that we're
Citywide.
citywide. That we continue on making, that's one of our major goals. It's been successful, but we're still not done.
Yeah.
And then landscapes, you know, to,
Localscape or the Xeriscape.
Yeah, yeah, very good, very good. Support economic accessibility, increase affordable housing by 15% by 2030 to ensure housing options for all residents. 15% was a number I threw in there. We need to come up with a really good, accurate number there. I'm not quite sure what that is.
we'd have to define what affordable housing is too.
Yeah.
And we'd also need to have a good baseline of where we sit. And so, but anyway, that's a placeholder for that type of goal. Develop local produce products and cost-effective services to stretch residential financial resources. Okay.
Okay, celebrate community heritage and welcoming atmosphere. Organize a quarterly culture event celebrating Tremont's heritage and diversity starting in 2025. Implement a welcome program for new residents by 2025 to introduce them to the community and its resources. I think the only way we could do that is when somebody comes down to get their water hookup or something. But then some apartment guys already pay water and sewer, so we don't see them. How are we gonna,
I know the
are we
change.
just gonna do for the ones that that come down to get hooked up for water, sewer, and garbage?
I attended one of the chamber meetings last month, and they were talking about this very thing. They'd like to get something up and going as well. We could probably partner with the chamber on something like this.
And, you know, even implementing, it says implement a program, and so it doesn't mean we have to have 100% right now.
Right.
But at least get the program started, and then we can start to build on that after that, right?
Brad, I think we cover that in the same detail back up on Pillar 1.
The welcome
Organized
program,
Culture events and welcome program is back up on Pillar 1. We try to find it. The very first one, strengthen community bonds, launch 5 neighborhood connection programs. Welcome to the community initiatives.
I think this is something a little bit,
Overlap in some of these things and
yeah, and we can,
this is
Multiple
maybe
birds
just a
with one
little
stone.
different than that. This is,
but you're right. And like I say, this is a framework. What I would hope that we do after this meeting is we take this and go home and study it, pencil, you know, get creative in what you think. We ought to change or add to it, and we'll move. Yeah. But thanks, Lyle, that's good. And then, let's see, we're on the last one, promote waste reduction and efficiency. Achieve a 20% reduction in citywide waste, and that's not in the bathroom, by 2030 through enhanced recycling programs, composting initiatives, and public education campaigns. Implement an incentive program encouraging employees and citizens to propose and execute validated ideas that reduce waste and save money. This is just something, this is a stretch, but I think it'd be a really, really neat idea if we had a program in place that employees and citizens could come in and say, I've got an idea on how we can eliminate waste in the city. And they may have a great idea, you know. An example I'll give you is at the transportation department, they put in a big diesel tank to fill all the buses. Okay, well, they're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars a year by that idea. Well, maybe there's ideas out there that the employees have, that citizens have, that they can come in and give some ideas, and if it looks like a good idea and we can validate it, all of a sudden now we can come back and say, this has been validated for a year, this is the money we saved, here's an incentive for doing that.
Should we add the word financial in front of waste? Would that make more sense to what you're saying? Reduction in citywide financial waste?
or maybe efficiency could be used instead of waste.
Yeah, maybe efficiency.
Because
I don't want just tied to-
Goes to environmental things.
Yeah,
when we
right,
read
right,
that, Instead
right.
of,
That first one's environmental, correct.
Can I add something to the foster openness and transparency section? Is it too late for that?
Oh, no.
I think our digital presence in the community is a big deal. How many people actually come to these meetings or actually hear about what happens here, right? Where if they're scrolling through Facebook and they're gonna see those things. For us to be able to communicate to my generation and younger, we've got to have digital presence, and I think we should put more resources at that. I think there's talk of that, but I think it should be an initiative even in that section of, and allowing somebody that wouldn't typically come. I had a resident tell me, I'm just frustrated with generally where things are going. I said, well, specifically, what are you talking about? And she said, and she started to give me a couple of ideas. And I think if she had a platform that made it easy to get that feedback back, at least we know we can hear it, and town halls is one way. And I think that's, for some people, the platform. For others, just as or more efficient, the younger they get, the more they just want to pop a text or
We had
pop
that.
quick information.
Yeah.
We had that on the computer. They could come and ideas or
Yep.
fill a pothole or whatever. And I don't know what happened, but it got dissolved in a hurry.
Yeah, well, it wasn't used much, but a lot of it could have been too, we didn't advertise it very well or get it out.
The easier we make it to get feedback, the more informed we'll be. And I think we should really focus on that.
I like that idea. I just want to caution.
Yeah, I
So,
look at Tremont Classifieds for 2
well,
seconds.
not just that, but we need to make sure we manage expectations, because if you put someone and allow any and all comments, right? And someone's going to say, I want all the streets in Tremont paved with gold. Someone's going to come up with it, or something of a similar, just unrealistic nature. And they're going to then say, I gave my comment to the city, no one has done anything about it. They responded back to me and said very politely and kindly that we can't pave the streets with gold, but that was my comment. So Tremont sucks and everything is horrible and I hate my life and I'm moving to Brigham. And we'll say, they're paved in gold in Brigham, so go on ahead. We just need to make sure that we manage expectations.
Yep.
And the problem with the suggestion box, and I love the idea, is that someone puts in a suggestion and then they expect the city to immediately respond in the way that they have suggested that we should respond.
Yeah.
And that may be unrealistic.
Yeah, maybe we have the expectation built in that has to meet a certain criteria. If it doesn't, then,
Either way, I think that every comment that we get should be responded to, but some of the ideas that people have are either impractical or in the works, but just further out. So be patient, kind of a thing.
But I also think, with that, launching a public dashboard of sort that gives updates and, where our vision is, that shows this vision clearly, will, answer a lot of the questions that are coming. And
yeah.
So I've been sitting back just trying to absorb everything. I love goal setting. I got to be really clear on here. The challenge that I find with goal setting is sometimes we take on stuff that sounds really good, but as I sit here and listen, I started thinking about core things of what a city provides. There's a lot of parks, there's a lot of feel-good events, but what I'm missing in here, what I think needs to be in here, what about our streets? What about identifying collector roads? What about a level of maintenance level for the roads? Should we have some sort of goal of a master road concept? As we talk about connecting to others, you take, I call them paved cattle trails, because you take a road and the people used to run their tractors up and down, and we pave it and we call it a road, and it's barely wide enough for one car. But it really needs to be wide enough for 4 after 3 years. I know Bear River Mountain Road has been talked about a lot. I think some of those concepts could be put into here with connectivity.
I think they should, yes.
So I think some road goals. I see roads as a huge factor. Providing sewer treatment services. I've told people many times, 2 things make a city: water in, water out. If you don't have those 2 things, you don't have a city. What do we have for goals as far as keeping our sewer treatment plant up to standard with the growth as it happens? What would be acceptable measures and levels there? Water standards. Lyle, thank you for bringing up conservation and understanding. But I think how do we identify water sources adequate so that parks can be maintained, so that people have adequate water. So I think some goals in water could be implemented into here as far as our quality of life. Just some of those things, maybe as you're contemplating, think about what the core business or what the core services that the city provides should be. I know the police officers have identified how many officers per resident should be maintained? You know, do we have benchmarks for how we would maintain that for our safety aspect? Do the fire department need something similar? Those types of things, I think, if the city council can consider some of those, might augment what you've already got. And also help communicate to residents the importance of those core structures.
Agreed. And so as we get this done, let's get a bullet item of these suggestions and let's build them in. And so everyone take this and please, let's tailor a really nice document. We don't want to make it so big that we can't achieve everything. And so we may be redlining some things and whatnot, you know, but,
I also want to say that at this point of our conversation, we should try to be as broad strokes as we can so that we're catching as many of these kinds of concepts and ideas that we can pull in, and then we can start to fine tune them and weed out things that are either impractical or don't fit in with the scope of the services that the city provides, or that maybe we wait on development to happen that brings new parks in and that kind of thing. And we don't have any control over that necessarily. It's good to keep broad strokes in the back of our mind, kind of we're headed this direction, and the work that we do is in furtherance of these broader goals and objectives. But as we get down to the brass tacks with some of these things, maybe some of them kind of take not a back burner, but like just they take a lesser portion of our resources than some of the other things that are more immediate concerns.
In addition to that, when we go down to the City of Leagues, they always give awards out for healthy cities. And I don't know what parameters they have down there and that type of stuff, but you know, we talk about these parks, numbers of parks. Is there a number out there that so many citizens equals we should have a park? Or, I mean, maybe we need to be using those parameters as goals, you know, so that we can become a healthy city according to what Utah state standards are.
and that's where I think, everyone that has some ownership in these goals could really help us. You know, the Parks Department may be able to get us that kind of information or help us establish those goals. You know, these base services you talked about, I'm glad you pointed those out, and I think they need to be included in this discussion for sure. When this is all said and done, the ideal would be to be on the back wall there, have our mission, our vision, and then have our goals up there so we can see if we're winning or losing as we move along. And so, you know, what are we accomplishing our goals in, and what are we falling behind on? And we can come up with a great dashboard that we can, as a city council, this quick, we can look up there and see, oh, wait a minute, we got a problem here. And then we can have some discussion around that during these meetings, so. But this is the framework of where I think we should go. And I don't know, how do you guys feel?
I'd be curious to ask Kurt, are there any other, like, finances are such a key critical lens to look through, right? Are there any other alarming things that have been left out that you feel really need to be addressed?
Just when I, as I've been involved with the city, as I listen, the most critical always come about water, sewer, which includes collection and treatment, and our roads. They just seem to bubble up. Public safety bubbles right up there. So your fire and your police department, those adequate protection, and then growth, and how do we manage growth? And by the way, Brett, thanks for putting those in there.
Yeah.
I mean, growth is such an important thing, and so planning and zoning come into play with, you know, how do we manage that growth? So, you know, I think those are your pillars, and you can tie each one of those into the four pillars. But those ones seem to be the top topics that seem to come before the city council on a constant basis. And you'll hear about parks, and we'll hear about the library, and we'll hear about the senior center, and we'll hear about our veterans and the cemetery, and those things kind of bubble up as well. But I mean, if I'm going after my top three, it's water, sewer, and the roads seem to be the top three that are constantly in front of us.
And maybe we take this document and you take it back to each one of the departments and say, okay, what would you identify as the 1, 2, or 3 most important things that should be included in this so that we get their aspect on it as well? And maybe we've captured that with some of the departments and maybe we haven't, so.
One other thing that I would feel comfortable us trying to get aligned, because, it kind of depends on who you talk to, but revenue drives incoming revenue. If this is a business, and at some level it is, income and then expenses equals net, right? And that net equals what else we get to do. What types of economic development plan and strategy we have? Who are we trying to lure in? Because that dictates the amount of budget we have to work with in the first place. That's what allows us to decrease tax to the residents and increase the amenities that they're getting. And so I think economic development strategy is really important for us to nail down over the next year. So wherever that fits in here, along with, because that changes also what you can do here, right? And so income in, yeah. So I'm just really passionate we get a strategy put together in there.
So are you guys all comfortable with, I'll drop in that pillar 2 and then send this out and will everyone please go through and start adding notes and everything, and then we'll try to compile this all together and let's eventually come up with I don't want this to take a whole year to get it accomplished. I'd like to get our goals going as soon as we can.
Thanks for starting it, Brett.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, I agree totally.
But you good with that idea?
Yeah, I just, the ideas are coming out here and that type of stuff, but I'm kind of a guy that likes to check the boxes off, to see if we're hitting the goals or not. We got the pillar board back here, and like you've done here, you've identified the pillar and then the points underneath it. It'd be nice to have somewhere back there too, where if we want 3 parks, where are we at?
Yeah, and that's that dashboard I was talking about. We'd have up there 3 parks, 3 squares. One's done. We still have 2 more to go. And from here, you could see this is where we're at on that goal. And that quick, we would see
Out
the
here where
results.
everybody can see what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, I think that's how we make this successful, is if we
Talked
can
about
visualize
that.
it.
Maybe we get Bill to go to work on that. We could put up, and they could be something that we could change over time, that maybe the goals will change each year, but something like we have the board back there and then putting it on that back wall there. so we can all
Otherwise,
see it.
out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And what's fun about this is once this is all set, this strategies, now all of a sudden, individual employees and departments now have things to work towards and know where to spend their money and how to use their money to get towards these goals. And we as a city council, it's a lot easier to approve things if they support our strategies.
Well, if everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Brett, thank you. Thanks for putting out time and effort into this.
Awesome.
So I'll
This
try
is
to
some-
get this out to everyone in the next day or 2. And then hopefully, maybe we can do another, it looks like it'd only take us about an hour, so maybe we could set aside an hour before one of our meetings and get together and just continue this discussion until we come up with a final
Yeah.
document. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, do we want to
Yep.
schedule that for February 4th? Is that right?
That's our next meeting.
Yeah, can we do it? Yeah, 5 o'clock?
I'm good with that.
And then we'll go 5 to 6 on the strategic planning and then go into our work session right after that.
Just Brett was saying that this is something you learned or gained from your years
At the
with
hospital, yeah.
hospital. So thanks for your bringing this out, and this is really going to help us. So let's go to work on it. Good. All right. Thanks, Brett.
You're welcome.
That was very good.
Sorry about the double pillar there. I
Oh, no.
don't know what happened.
You learned
Okay.
that at the hospital too?
I,
No.
no wonder we,
Yeah,
no,
no wonder my x-rays cost so much. You took two of them.
no wonder you,
Same leg.
no wonder you're missing an arm.
All right. Let's see. Brendan is,
Centers aren't coming till 6.
he's not coming till 6. Okay,
of
so
them
let's,
are.
none of them are.
Thought we were gonna take 2 hours to talk budget and whatnot.
Yeah, let's go into that now. So, yeah, that's, Curtis? You have
Yeah.
anything for us with budget-wise that we need to be discussing?
Well, if we can go through the audit, if you want to pop to the audit financial
Can I
statements.
interrupt just for a sec?
You just did.
Can we please take a break for just 5 minutes?
That's the mayor's
Yes,
call, not
thank
mine.
you.
Let's do it.
Sorry.
No.
Listen.
Well, we don't have to call on a break.
Good stuff.
I got those. They're gonna be, what is it, like page, 16, page, I need 19. Yeah. That's the page numbers on there. I don't know if but it's the 19 and 20 of these financial statements. Yeah, if we can do those two, we can talk about at least where.
But all is good. Something they haven't given him orders.
Let's do that. And they-
I didn't know which key it was.
They booted us out a couple of years ago, and they called us back in this year.
D6 is the archive room.
A lot of, I mean, we're doing the same thing, I think, that they were doing in Syria, so we're not there heading everything, but yeah, we have special forces there. We're kind of letting them do the bulk of the fighting. And then like my son, the medical team, you're actually, most of your operations are gonna be on the locals, not on special forces who are much better trained. Right, do it that way, but the timing is terrible.
I'm gonna put some food away, so if you guys want any, please go ahead and shop.
So he's in the middle of his board certification process. On the practical side, he's already done all the exams. And so if they were to deploy him now, he'd have to start all over again. And his board certification impacts when he can become a partner in the firm and all these other things.
Sorry, just tack you guys along.
But I hope my job's very good.
My problem is I look at
School,
those
take
and I go, ka-ching, ka-ching, money's going out, money's going out.
when they get too far,
I know. Oh, yeah.
and I go out a lot, I'm not trying to affect their lifestyle, just trying to help them, as I told them,
Well, and every
as a couple, our son and daughter,
Some
want
of
more
them
time
plays
together.
out.
It's just
Yeah, so I'm sitting here quaking and going, okay, well, that's typically 40.
No one knows what this is.
0.5, 0.05 or so.
I was gonna ask a question, but I didn't.
And then also, it helps us to have.
Yes.
Yes, and I've been there but not checked out every.
You know, so I know generally what it looks like. It's kind of cool.
I'd like to see it. We drove through it on the way to Science. We went down on the coastline and something.
So here's what we do. Here's what we do. Okay.
Took a ferry boat out to.
We're updating our capital project schedules.
two city managers, and traffic cameras from.
So we're building those schedules. Those schedules go out about 4 years. With some conceptual stuff outlined, but
Generally speaking, that would outline what we're up
where we're looking, facing, and coming up with as far as major after that, let's talk about.
We have some chairs right here, I know. Thought about putting some of them up.
Yes. No, sorry.
Like the whole row?
Oh, it was 19 and I think so.
19 and 20 on the bottom.
There are.
Yeah.
It was right in here. These ones go here, these ones go.
So
But Paul went to buy new ones. These ones were not available.
They weren't available anymore.
And these ones slide so nice. These ones do not slide. Even if you have one chair left.
They always gotta change it up, so we have to buy things different.
So there's so
I'm squeezing behind you.
but my goal is I'm not generating return on asset loss inflationary amounts. And it's a regulatory amount as well as regulations seem to bigger impact inflation. Okay, so we put a benchmark there as to business.
I needed that.
Yes, please.
Because it's really about.
Not that I can, but I expect
And so that's the general plan. Budget really
But we know what we should be budgeting for in the next 4, because otherwise you're not gonna pull the trigger on the park.
Maybe it's okay.
Going on. Last Friday. Yeah, I really exist.
How's your,
and try and get
waste
it where we
management
see what capital needs are.
I mean, I got 3.
Because that answers the question of those 4 top priorities. That's how we know. if we're going
One test in
Yeah,
Right.
That's everything.
but the capital projects and then the rate studies too. Ideas, concepts.
So that answers my question.
Yeah, so it's not a complete loss, it's just
No secret.
it's just done a little
Yeah.
bit differently. Because I'm always
Prepared and you know stuff.
Is he taking care of that?
Yeah, how are you planning? Yeah.
So there is a lot.
Yes,
Well,
that's it.
just like, cause to me, part of feasibility only fully relies on that schedule.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're not,
Yeah, well, I
can't
think
spend
this is
money
the
on
easy
something
one.
else.
So you're the budget woman.
Well,
You are. So are you going to be able to put it together like Mark did on that big spreadsheet?
That's how I feel.
And if it's not, if those are things that people are talking to you about.
And this has to be done by March?
Oh, you get the hard one out of the way?
May, okay. So this is the first night we're even talking about
I
it.
did not read
Oh,
something right
so,
with.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, so, okay.
just trying to listen to what you're around.
Early,
When do you
early.
think you'll have those back up to par?
Art, right?
I don't care, I'm not using either one, so I don't care.
It's too much right now. It's way too much.
Lindsay's working
That part right now is
dedicatedly on them, and
This is what we
we'll
gotta-
know.
really
capital project
prioritizing on.
schedules.
So we gotta try to fit some
Okay, if I'm sitting here?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're waiting for the auditors to come. They have the actual bound financial statements. Just to remind you, we actually draft the financial statements. We're one of the few cities in the state of Utah, especially small cities, where we draft the financial statements and auditors just audit them. But the auditors came in December and did all their procedures, and they've issued their reports. They've actually got them electronically. They're all clean, and the auditors will tell you all about what they did. But what I want to focus on here is something I've continuously talked to the city about. When we look at our business type funds, so water treatment plant, storm drain, and sewer collection, we have our standard operating revenues. So these are charges for services, connection fees, miscellaneous income. And we have our standard operating expenses, salary and benefits, current expenses, and depreciation. That's what it takes on a typical basis just to run everything. Now, if we scroll back up one page, what you're going to see is, go clear to the right there, we have assets that we have to replace. So eventually they're going to wear out, they're going to need to be replaced. If you look in the water fund, $22 million worth of assets, of which 16.5 is on that line that says capital assets net. These are asset intensive activities. They take a lot to run and to keep up. So we're constantly investing in these fixed assets. Every single one of these has large amounts of capital assets, and the only reason why treatment plant fund has large amounts of cash is because it's going to be investing a lot of that cash into the expansion. So it's going to be converted from cash into capital assets. So why do I bring this up? The metric that I've constantly talked to the council about, a key metric, is if we take a look at what our operating net revenue, net income is, and we compare that to our capital assets, that tells us how much are we getting of a return on our assets. If that amount is 1, if it comes out at 1, or is exactly, let me rephrase that, if it comes out at 0, so our net income was 0, but we still have capital assets, we would literally be not setting aside any money to replace besides just the historical cost of the assets. So we're providing for them to replace, but some of those assets are being replaced on a cost that's 20 years old or 30 years old. That doesn't cut it. And so we need to have some rate of return that's more in line. So if you scroll back down to the previous page, if we were to take for the water, and you guys have your sheets in front of you, if you take the $368,000 of operating income, everybody see that line? Mm-hmm. Right there. And we divide it by the capital assets net of $16.5 million. That comes out to 2.2%. So what that tells you is we've recovered the cost of the assets plus 2%. Now, historically, I've said inflation, you got to be somewhere between 2 and 4% on general inflation. We had a year of 9%. Now the feds are questioning whether they can get down to 2%. Something the council should consider is what's that rate of return? And when we sit at 2.2%, I have to tell you, we're on the very, very low end, which isn't going to impact us next year. It's not going to impact us the year after that. But 10 years from now, when we go to replace some of those water lines or replace some of the other equipment that's in the water fund, a well, a tank, and these are just replacements. This isn't expansion. This is just replacement. We're on the low end. And you could be setting up a future city council to face a fairly large rate increase. So one of the things you have to ask is, at what point do we take some measures to bump up that rate of return? How much do we want to go? If we go to treatment plant, we go through the same exercise, $318,000 divided by the $6.5 million. That's current assets. Then we get assets in place, that's gonna go down. It's sitting at 4.86%. I've talked in the past about the treatment plant. We need to have a rate of return equal to inflation, 2.2 to 4%, but it has regulatory pressures. All of a sudden, somebody gets something going and they want to see phosphorus levels come down, which was one from a few years ago, or they want to change something. And I can't tell what those regulatory pressures are going to come from. So I recommend adding another 3 to 5% rate of return just for regulatory environment. So what does that mean? We should be somewhere between 5 and 10% minimum in that fund. Obviously, the closer you get to 10%, the more likely you are going to be compliant. We're probably a little bit low on that fund. Rate increase should be considered. How do we make sure that fund's going to stay healthy? Storm drain, we do the same math, 2.2%. Sewer collection, we do the same math, 2.1%.
You made a comment back on the treatment plant that we've got a big expense facing us.
Yeah.
How much are we talking about?
That UV upgrade that they're doing, and we're in the middle of it. I can't remember the number that Paul gave me, but
I haven't seen it, so I can't tell
it's
you.
it's a couple million. I know. Do you remember? I don't have it right in
I'm
front
aware
of
of
me.
the
but
project, but I'm not aware of the
we can
amount.
have that for the next city council meeting. I know we've committed a few $1 million on that project already.
And that'll be coming out of the pooled cash.
It's coming out of the cash because we had set aside money.
Because I thought we were about done with it. So we're in the middle of it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's still ongoing. One of the prospects, and I also know that they've recommended a few other improvements, and Paul runs through so many projects, I lose track of them after a while. I'm just like, okay, Paul, tell me, do you need more than 3 million? Because I've got 3 million. But we can get that and come back with the list of projects that they've got on that.
It'd be good to know.
Because, yeah, right now we're still running low just with the assets that we've got. And what we're doing is just expanding out. It's not even replacing certain areas.
So if we're just looking at the, let's just take the water fund, for example. We're at what did you say, 2.2%? 2.2%. You figure it should be closer to, say, 4%. Are you recommending changes in the water, the enterprise fund, or what's in your head right now?
Yeah, we have to increase water rates. There's no other.
That's the part that we haven't had rate increases for a couple of years now, but we've had high inflationary pressures on those. Now we've benefited from some growth in the city, so our revenues have gone up. But as we're seeing things stabilize, we're still hovering right around that 2%. And so we should be looking at a rate increase that would, add a few $100,000 to our net bottom line. So yeah, I think how we structure this and the timing to structure it needs to be discussed. I don't have any specific proposals right now. It's just a very consistent. Last year we were talking about we were a little bit on the low side. We need to monitor it. We're on the low side again. I think we're beyond monitoring. I think we're stabilized out where we're at, and there's some rate discussions that we're going to have.
You had that spreadsheet that you kind of walked us through last year or a couple of years ago. I can't remember when it was for sure. We're talking about, it might have been secondary water. We were talking about secondary water rates, but couldn't that same sort of thing be looked at here, where you can we could play with some different numbers? And
yeah, we can start talking about number of users and whether or not in the water fund, we have the uniqueness of we can play with the secondary water rates, we can play with the culinary rates. There's always that balance of if you raise the secondary rates too high, there's not really an incentive to use the culinary. And we had that discussion a few years ago. So how we structure those increases, how we look at those, I think we have a lot of options. But
Are rate increases the only way, or are there other levers that could be pulled that would allow us to have the capital infrastructure still? What's the Or is that a magic number that you're supposed to follow? And like, what's just kind of the logic there?
So, one of the challenges that we constantly face in these funds, let me rephrase that. One of the fantastic, lovely parts of what we face in the enterprise funds is because we strip out a lot of the variables. So if we scroll down to the bottom, we have some impact fees. Every once in a while we get a capital grant. We take out interest income, gain loss, certain things that would like fluctuate between years. Our expenses, and we can graph this out, our expenses for operating purposes stay fairly constant. Whatever we do with salaries and wages, we're going to reflect that. So scroll back up. If we were to pull back up the last 5 years, you're going to see current expenses stay pretty constant with a slight uptrend. You're going to see salary and benefits go up as the cities increase salaries and benefits. The depreciation is fairly constant because we don't do any of those tax things that tax guys like, where they accelerate things. We just take straight line depreciation because it keeps it straight, it keeps it steady. And so when we look at operating expenses, I can tell you they're pretty constant to going up on a routine basis. And if we don't have that, and charges for services, when we bring on new users, they're going to start contributing to the system. And we've had some growth, we've had some people come in, and we were watching to see, did that improve our margins? Did that improve this percentage? And it's just kind of leveled off right there, staying at that 2%-ish range. And that's where we've been, and we've watched it. I'm here to tell you, we're just on the low side. We're to the point where we got to consider some action.
Right. Some of that water fund is, people used to water their lawns when it, but now with their budget pockets tightening up, they're not gonna water their lawns, and all you gotta do is drive around town. So, and we gotta gain back everything that we've put into that somewhere,
Talking
somehow.
about secondary water.
Secondary, and
It goes
people,
on
it's between watering your lawn and buying your medications. They're gonna buy their medications.
I can tell you water revenues, the charges for services, that's one that I constantly am doing an analysis of the weather. And I actually have spreadsheets that I put together each year that track if we had an extremely dry fall, people's water usage tends to keep going. But if you happen to have something where it starts raining in October, all of a sudden your water flow's shut off, and your upcoming year is going to be, you're starting the revenues on the downside. And then if you have a wet spring with a wet fall, your revenues can drop a few $100,000 just in usage,
Right.
pretty fast. On the other hand, if you have an extremely hot, dry fall and a spring that starts in March and is dry, our water revenues will go way up. And so it's the revenues in that fund are very volatile. When you compare the revenues there compared to the treatment plant's steady. I mean, it just chugs. That's just what it is. Because it has some overage charges and stuff, but it's pretty constant. Same for sewer collection, same for storm drain. They're just constant fees, so their revenues can be very constant. But the water fund can fluctuate dramatically if the weather patterns adjust.
If we have a department, let's say the water department finds in a year a 5% reduction in expenses, how will that impact that number?
Usually,
Now, I know that it's a big difference, but it should impact it a little bit.
it will. The typical thing where if they were to find 5%, it's not going to be across all lines.
Correct.
Because the depreciation line's going to stay pretty much where it's
Right.
at. The salaries and benefits, you're talking about cutting people out,
No.
level of service, and that's hard typically to swallow. So you're talking about 5% off of the 972. If they found a legitimate 5% within that whole thing, now you're only sliding 5% off of not a little bit less than half the budget. So you'd adjust maybe 1%-ish or something like that on your, but we can just do the math real quick.
So I think you see where I'm going with this. If we can work towards finding some efficiencies,
Yeah.
and we're right at the low end, and we can now bring that number up a little bit, we may be able to, by a year or two. My concern is, number one, we have this new president in that's supposed to be helping to bring inflation down, or at least to where it's manageable. And so I hate to overreact at this point if we can find some other solutions this year before we move on with any kind of rate increases.
So if we run just with your scenario, 5% is roughly $50,000, just using rough numbers. I divide that by the capital assets, that nets us 0.3%.
Okay, so now we're at
So
like
you-
2.5.
So yeah, you're 2.5 instead of 2.2.
Okay.
So that's what every 5% off of that line would equate to about 0.3% roughly, ish.
When is the last rate increase? When was it?
5 or 6 years ago.
Ignorance.
7?
We put the rate increases through when we put the secondary water, the first secondary water into place.
That was 2000, about 2018, probably.
And then we've raised it a couple times.
I think it was 20 or 21.
Was it 20?
I think it was
'cause
20 or 21 when we did it.
It seems like whenever we did a bond, that we raised it.
Yeah.
Will you scroll down to like page 1, go to like 115, see where it puts us. Okay, it's gonna go back up, go to like 100. We'll narrow this down.
Set
Okay,
it.
go up, no, let's
And then 2
see,
years
go
later, you
down,
have to reset again.
right here, long term.
Have to
When did we do those
readjust.
bonds? Keep scrolling down, a little bit more, keep going down, 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 down.
That is when we started.
Right there, April 21, we did our last bond. So I think we did the bond increase right there in around April, around 21. I think that's when we did the,
2018 and 2021.
Okay.
Remember in 2018, that's when we sort of made the big decision to go ahead with secondary water,
yeah.
when we had that spike and in
Yeah,
water
so, I
consumption.
mean, we issued bonds for 2.5 and 2.2%. I hope we never do that again, but man, that was good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's help. The reason I say that is I don't know if that low of an interest rate for long term is healthy for the overall economy.
Hindsight's perfect.
Huh?
They say hindsight's perfect. You know, now you're looking at it and the rates are what, 6 to 7% for the same money. It would have been smarter to borrow more.
But so our last rate increase would have been in that 21 year.
Yeah.
I want to say in connection with this conversation that we're having, as well as maybe a potential truth in taxation conversation for later on down the road. And this is the mantra that I've adopted throughout my career in each of the communities I've worked at, that this is a leadership challenge. And the questions that you face and the decisions that you make have long-lasting repercussions, not just on rate interest, not just on rate that you guys bring in, but on revenues that are impacted for many, many years. And my thought is always that future generations will not thank us for kicking the can further down the road and putting off a rate increase when we know we have a deficiency this year, because it's going to catch up. And instead of doing a 2 or 3% increase this year, it's going to be a 10 or 15% increase in 5 years. And no one's going to thank you for that. No one's going to say, hey, thanks for giving me the 5 years of none, and now you're charging me 15%.
We just went through that.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed that part of the conversation, but we need to be careful about how we evaluate these kinds of
Yeah, I
increases.
just don't want to react when we're still in the safety zone, and I think we need to react when we hit the 2% or less, and then we start to adjust. But I know we tried to be conservative, but I'm concerned of being conservative on everyone's tight incomes right now.
I just don't think inflation's at 2% anymore. I think that bottom number should be considered higher because I'm not convinced the feds can get things back down to 2% in construction and the things that we deal with. I just don't think it's 2%.
But you
anymore.
told us 2 to 4%, right?
Well, that's been a general historical range that I've communicated. I'm just telling you that things have changed in the last 2 to 3 years where that's historically what we've said. The council should discuss, is 2 to 4 still really reflective of what they think inflation is on a long-term basis?
And as a principal, are you generally not, you don't like to see capital projects go money or, some of those funds that have been set aside for future go into supplement? You feel strongly that these should be supporting themselves, right?
Well,
Revenues and expenses should,
the way business type funds are set up is so that the revenues generated cover the operating expenses, which is why we take out those non-operating things.
yeah.
We're solely focused on what does it take to really operate this system. Not trying to hiding, I'm trying to put it all
Yeah.
on the face there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, in theory, these individual businesses should have a rate structure that pays for all of their operating costs
Right.
and generates the ability to replace those assets plus the inflationary pressures.
Yeah.
So the reality of it is where the tire hits the road is, what the cost is. So to raise 2%, if your monthly water bill is $100, it's $2 more a month
Yeah, roughly. I mean, that's what you're looking
to
at
do what we're talking about.
across the board.
Okay.
Are the rest of them in the 4% range?
No,
Oh.
so water fund's 2%, storm drains 2.2%, sewer collection's 2.1%. And the treatment plant's sitting at 4.86, but
But it should be much higher.
that one should be at a 5 to 10% rate to cover for those regulatory effects. That's my opinion. This is where the council, I encourage the council to discuss. I'm telling you what I think inflation's doing, but that's up.
Yeah.
Well, first off, where do you think inflation's going? I want to hear this.
Yeah, let's get out your crystal ball.
I really struggle to think that the Fed's going to get it down into the 2% range that they're shooting for. I think we're more in the 2.5 to 3.5% range in the next 3 to 5 years. I just think the economy is going to be that inflationary. We've got that type of our unemployment rate, especially around in this area, is hovering just over. I think around here it's like 2.2
Really low.
or 2.3%.
Really low.
I mean, anybody who wants a job can basically get it, and so our inflationary pressures on wages is going to stay fairly high as everybody's competing for those wages. I like the fact that energy could come down and have some deflationary pressures, but I think around here construction costs are generally just a titch higher. We have a housing shortage. I think there's plenty of construction going to that. And all of these factors just come into play that say, no, inflation's going to probably tend up closer to that 3%. That's my crystal ball and why.
Just one more question, Curtis, then. I look at the storm drain fund. We got 1.5 million sitting in that account. Why do we need that?
We've now hit the population point where we're gonna have to start abiding by further state guidelines on storm drainage that we haven't up to this point because of our population. So coming up soon, we're gonna have to, they're called MS4 requirements, and they become a lot more in-depth from both a public works standpoint, but also from a city review and design standpoint.
So
And
we're
we
gonna
hit
need
that.
cash.
Yeah,
We hit that already in the sewer, right?
no, this MS4 is just specifically a storm drain thing.
I understand that. A year or two ago, when we hit 10,000 or something like that, we had to change our sewer system. Huh?
You're thinking we're a class 4 city now?
Yeah, but it seems like we had to go on and add something we spent over $1 million or something upgrading the system because we changed classes.
No, I don't think it's because we changed classes.
For some
I think
reason,
it was just upgrading,
population.
just keeping with upgrades that we needed.
That one had more to do with the amount of solids coming out. There was this whole discussion that Paul had between the solids and the fluid flows, and it's an engineering thing that goes past me. I'm an accountant, not an engineer. So
I'm pretty sure that there was a number associated with this.
it had a lot to do with the population. I know, and Paul could quote those.
Brett's right, because there were some other expenses that we had to put and implement when we hit that number 4.
And when we implemented improved the digester system and stuff like that inside the treatment plant, I know with the storm drain, we're talking about land acquisitions at that point to have where we create the detention ponds and things like that, and so we can blow through that 1.5 fairly quickly. But we also may benefit from some park space. I know Sean had some ideas about how you do, but I mean those plans are.
Yeah, it just seems like it'd been sitting there for a long time. Jeff's answered the question. I just wondered if we could slide that over into their fund, but we don't want to do that.
I would discourage it.
Or they-
I mean, that's one of the funds that I can be a little bit, I would be more flexible with, just because its capital projects come fairly infrequently.
So are they all 4 sitting low then? Is that what?
The two major ones that I have a worry about are the water and the sewer treatment. Yes, storm drain's sitting a little bit low due to its nature. Its expenses are pretty constantly low. I'm not as concerned about that one. I do think it's low, but I'm picking and choosing. I don't want rate increases. I really don't. And the ones I'm going to focus on are water and sewer treatment. Those are the ones where my concerns are. The other ones, yeah, we can live by.
I just get
From my
concerned.
point of view.
I get concerned with money sitting in an account and inflation and is spending that money for us when we could be using it in other areas. And so I hate to sit on it for 10 years and.
That would be worthless.
Yeah, and it's worthless, yeah. So that's a concern.
It totally is. And that's why I think going into this session, Lindsay and I have already talked, we've got to get our hands around the capital situation and build up a really reliable capital schedule for you guys. And so we're going to spend a lot of time building those up.
Yeah, I was going to express that, just, how important those capital project schedules are, because that's what allows us to plan. Without them, we're guessing. And how do you allocate or make decisions on anything else when you don't know what the core 4, future needs are going to be?
And when are they going to hit roughly?
Yeah.
And that's why I know Paul's put on there, developing a water source, an additional culinary water source in prior years. And when we develop that, we will blow through probably right close to $3 million of the cash that's sitting in that. I can tell you, they're just expensive. By the time you go through test, prove out a water system, unless you can tap into something that's already existing.
Well, and they're harder to come by now for multiple reasons.
All the easy water's found, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
all good water.
Well, and the way that they manage the Great Salt Lake now, and with the current state engineer, I mean, she shut down this valley really to new applications that were just there for the taking before, and so you have to find something existing and make that work, which is why the secondary water, not only is it a good idea, but it's critical.
Yeah.
I got a quick question. We've been talking about proprietary funds here, the waste and the water. So when's the last time we had a study done on the roads? I mean, that's the next biggest expense in my mind. I don't know if we know where we're at with that stuff.
They've run that. Paul's got that somewhere.
Is that T squared stuff?
Yes.
Who does that?
T squared.
Well, T-Squared comes and looks at the roads and recommends and And I know Paul has that somewhere. I think
That
he showed
part of
it to
the
us
capital
once.
project schedule?
They'll do that, don't they?
Is that part of it or no?
It
They
should
come every
be.
other year or something.
That's my point.
should
It's
be.
never, we've never connected, you know, we'll talk about this, and then 2 months later, we'll talk about the roads. We need to talk about it all at the same time here, so we can, again, do some planning with the capital.
I'm gonna look at
So-
that, I'm gonna look at that study with Paul and Carl in the next little bit and make a recommendation. We're looking at a couple of different places to enhance our funding for roads, including a transportation utility fee that would be added to the water bill, and each user would get probably I don't know, just ballpark like a $10 a month addition to their water fee, their water bill to provide for some of these projects and ongoing concerns that we have where we have a budget shortfall. And then we would probably set up some kind of a fund to use that transportation utility fee for these road projects as identified.
So I can answer your question, Lyle. We used to, in these financial statements, choose to do what was called the modified approach when it came to road infrastructure. It was an allowable way, so we didn't do depreciation at the top level for roads. And that sounds really confusing. But the bottom line is, we used to use that study and report to the city council, and it was required to be done every 3 years at a minimum. The state auditor's office came through and did an interpretation of the accounting standards and said unless the city itself could conduct that road assessment annually, you couldn't do the modified approach. And so from the financial statement point of view, we complied with what the state auditor said because we didn't have a choice. And so I stopped pushing Paul to do that road deal, and I'm not sure if he rescheduled or if there's anything scheduled. But I used to push for that every 3 years, so we would have that study because I thought it was more beneficial than depreciation when it came to roads. Because it reports the status and look at cracks and everything like that. If there's not budget to do it, I would encourage the city council to set money aside to have a similar study done because I do think it's valuable. I think it's definitely more valuable than what depreciation is on roads. It just is.
And a two-edged sword, cutting the streets up for secondary water is, you know, cut down on the age, how long those roads are gonna last. That's a huge concern. It was a concern when we started, but you know, again, two-edged sword, we needed water, so.
And does it have to be so scientific? Can't we just go out and say, and identify the 5, 6 worst roads in Tremont and fix them?
The 5 or 6 that you think needs to be fixed,
Well,
I don't.
it could be a group or a consensus. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there has
And
to
there may be a way of measuring that, but it just seems that it doesn't need, let's go spend a bunch of money to have someone tell us what we already know.
Well, it depends on what your definition of fixed is, because Rocket Road.
You guys could define that. Yeah.
Rocket Road is over capacity right now with its lane width, so is that the capacity, or are you just looking at pavement? Like, that's
I'm
the
asking you guys to define that,
definition. Well,
you
you're the
know.
one with the money, so you should.
Right.
You know?
Well, then I'll go out and do it.
I mean, look what we spent.
You
just
drive
getting,
them all anyway there, Buster.
You know, up
Oh,
the
yeah.
mountain,
No
and
kidding. That was just a partial project too. That was.
there's a
just-
ton of roads that need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why we used to do the study, and I really don't know how much it costs off the top of my head, but the engineers would define why a road was classified the way that it was, and they would look at saw cuts, stress cracks, everything that went into analyzing a road from an engineering standpoint, and be able to look and as I would read through that report, I'd be amazed. It's like going, if a crack was of a certain size, but if it did a certain angle, then all of a sudden it became a major repair factor because of that indicated something going on below. Whereas if it was something else, then they were just like, oh no, you can slurry seal that and it's not a problem. And I'm just like, that the difference to a naked eye, to me they look the same, but they had their methodology of why they. And that's the only reason why I say having professionals do something in this case. They may see something that's not apparent to And I don't know if we have anybody trained within the city to understand roads to that level. If we
Been
do,
several-
then let's do it.
It's been several years since I've seen a T-squared report. But that's what they do. They have the
Yeah.
technical,
And I don't know if they even analyzed capacity with that. I think they just
just
I'm
the
not
quality
sure
of the
if they
road, I
just did
think. And then they
quality.
rank them from, they give you a ranking.
Yeah, it was from a scale of 1 to 10.
Remember, some roads gotta be replaced if we're gonna put new water line, new sewer line. So there is some older road in town that has not been fixed, waiting for when we do put new water and sewer, and then we don't want to put a new road in, tear it up, so.
There needs to be a master plan on what we're doing with our roads.
There you go.
But to put it into perspective, just remember when we did the sewer line out here on Main Street, we basically went from the river up to however far east it went. I can't remember how far east it went. That project was like $1.3 million, that sewer line. So just imagine how fast I can blow through $4.3 million doing some water lines. It's gonna go fast. If
We
do it.
wasn't in even the road all that way either. That was alongside of the road a lot of the way.
And that was just the line. That
Spent $1 million on the Deweyville, right?
Now fortunately, that'll be paid for with grant funding, but still, it's
That's
$1
no
million
grout,
for
that's nothing, that's
6,000
dirt.
feet. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you get into asphalt,
that's just how fast we can go through some of this money.
Right.
So if we increase revenues, then we're going to have increased money for our capital.
Yes, we would.
Okay.
That's where the vast
Economic
majority's gonna
development.
go.
There you go.
better let the rest know.
Other than that, the city's in pretty good shape, so we'll go through the financials, but those were the big concerns. Thanks for letting me take some time.
Thank you. Thank you, Curtis. We appreciate you coming and going through this with us and helping us understand. Your services are greatly appreciated. Thank you. Okay, 6 o'clock. Let's see.
What we got?
Is
Dustin and
Brendan, let's see, Nate and Dustin.
Let's let Dustin go first.
Dustin, do you want to go first and
20 minutes.
let's see, is Brendan, first of all, is Brendan here? Oh, there you are. He's actually next on the agenda, so let's have you take a few minutes with us, Brendan, and kind of go through what your plans are here. While you're coming up, this is something that I know the council, we went through some goals and strategic planning, and this is one of the areas that we feel like is really important. So we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Yeah, likewise. And you have to excuse my wife and business partner Tessa. She was going to be here, but she's fallen a little sick, so I'm
Okay.
rolling solo today on it. But yeah, it's all good. Well, appreciate you. Thanks for being here. So appreciate. But yeah, looking forward to kind of talking with y'all through what we do. I met Jeff at the Kiwanis activity, and that's where told him a little about what we did, and then he mentioned that this is something that the city could use. So coming back from what we do, so the Blackthorn Media, my last name is Blackham, my name is Brendan. And my wife's Tessa Thornley. She grew up here. She's from this area.
Tessa.
So Blackthorn
Tessa.
Media is where it comes from.
Okay.
But so we're Tremonton based. We live in Thatcher, but obviously this is home. We're here all the time. Tess used to manage the print shop here in town, and it still kind of works there a little bit. But the business that we do is mainly centered around video, photo, graphic design. And I actually work for a full-time job for a content production agency out of Denver. And so I take those skills working for Fortune 100 businesses, and I like to bring those to help local businesses around here. But also, when Jeff had approached me the idea with the city, it was like, oh, I think that would be potentially a good fit. So the ideas behind this is to be a resource for improving all of the communications that you guys do at the city, whether that's with video content for your YouTube channel. I know Jeff had mentioned a potential series about maybe some monuments, and like this is some interesting things that you can go see, little walking tour pieces, little recaps from city council meetings like this that could be a short bite-sized short form video that maybe you have Bo or someone be the face of, and then we can chop it up, make it really simple so that someone that's my age, that's new to town, instead of going and listening to a
2.5 hour to 4 hour meeting, they can go and catch all the highlights on that.
TikTok scroll.
So yeah, because the average young person scrolls about a city block and a half worth of short form videos a day. If you think about that, it's kind of weird, but they're kind of addicted to the thing. So if you can pop in there with some of our focus, that is a little bit of background. It helps the PR, it helps all those pieces. So clicking through, scrolling around. So yep, just talked a little bit about us. Photo, video, and personal histories is a big piece of what Tess does. So she's a journalist by trade, and I do all sorts of media and content. I started doing this stuff when I played in a band. I started in 2011. To play in a band and promote shows, you need to know how to video edit, how to do social media, how to do all these different things. So both of us, through the years, probably nearly 25 years of experience, which is about our ages each. So kind of an awesome powerhouse of a couple to be able to do this. So keep clicking through if we could. Yeah, this is us. If you want to see what she looks like, she's beautiful. It's awesome. Keep going. And then a little touches of portfolio. We work with families, businesses, business to business, and social content. I under-rounded there, but yeah, anyway, it was all good on the years there. These are just some recent projects, whether it's missionary photos, family, newborns, real estate, histories, funerals, all that stuff on the photo side, but then on the videos side, short form and all that jazz. So keep clicking through. These are links to portfolio, so on the PDF you guys can go dive into these, and there's lots there if you want to go and vet on the side. So we'll keep clicking through. Many cities struggle to produce high quality, engaging social video within a budget, and the other thing is the tax base here. We're very well aware that it's there's a tax burden on people, and so we don't want to charge a rate that is astronomical or frustrating. The types of services that we engage in other places will probably cost 5 to 6 times as much as this bid is. Just to be frank with you, if we were bidding this in Salt Lake, it would be that high. I wouldn't do this low. So that is a very big thought with this, is to something that is fair for the city, because we live here. This is where we're going to raise our kids. This is what we care about, these things in the long run of the way that the visuals and communications with the city. We want it to be something approachable, and then make it fun, make it cool, right? That's one of your guys' things back here, connected to the good life and enjoying, making it friendly and happy. So we'll keep clicking through with our the needs Jeff talked about, highlight tourism aspects within the city, and then improve design and print collateral as well as the videos, and keep clicking through. And then we're based in Tremonton. Like mentioned, all these different services that we do mainly are helping businesses, but also that Tremonton City Corporation, same deal. You're selling the dream, right? That's what we do. The excitement of what we do, the hope and the joy that there is to be in a city that's small and has good people, and that there's exciting, unique history, beautiful history that I didn't even know before I moved up here, because I grew up in a small town in central Utah, Mount Pleasant. And when my wife and I met at Snow and she came up here, I learned all the cool elements of history. The Berlin candy bomber being from here, I knew that. So when I saw his mural, I was like, what the heck? That's kind of, so the fact that there's that, the Golden Spike pieces, there's all the, the Borgstrom brothers, those are like the 3 highlights that are the most popular things that have happened. But there's a lot of really neat things around town that I'm probably not even aware of yet, that I'm sure that many people need to know exist. And so that's a big part of this initiative as well. So we provide that through videos, photos, editing, design, graphic design as well. And so we'll keep clicking through. Show you some more of these. This just goes into what those look like for the types of things we've shot photos of and the types of videos we've done. And keep clicking through. Graphic design strategy. So we're also here as hey, we have this thing coming up. What do you recommend? We're here to spitball, bounce ideas off of, bring some of those ideas. Well, we've been seeing some people do these types of things. What do you think? And then just kind of make it nice and simple so you guys can just think of us as your marketing arm of the city in a way. Just keep going through. And so the idea with this bid was to do a flat rate for all the creative services we do, and then just roll out as much as we could. So the idea is to show these short form recaps, tourism, YouTube video content, social media content creation, whether that's stills or videos, templates for your team to be able to post. And then there's elements of handouts, brochures, and print collateral that have been mentioned. And so designing those in a way that's easy so that who can pick something up or they can scan something, they can understand what it is by looking at it visually, which is a big part of it. The layout is huge, and being able to get a message across. And the colors that Tremont City has are great, so there's a good starting point, and the branding's solid, so it's not going to be very tough to make
You got a
things look
branding
great.
book?
A branding book, I don't use
Probably
it.
could provide you with one of those.
Great, yeah.
It'd be helpful for you.
Brand guide would be awesome. Yeah, that'll help with all the elements of what we do. So that all access to these, we won't post on the platforms, but we'll create all the content so your team can. We can show you the best ways, just because we wanted to make it as affordable as possible and make the most sense for you guys, and generate as many pieces of content as possible, rather than the busy work piece, which could be handed off to a 15-year-old. So
We don't have many of those.
right, use city council. Give them the service project, right? So I did that growing up, so it's a good thing. So keep clicking through. Then there's our contact. So that's kind of the main pieces. It's just really high level. What questions do you have? Feel free to dive in, and anything in particular. Maybe it'd be good to click back a few to the solutions tab, and then we can dive into that. So I think it's back like 3.
Well, how much, that's a awfully fair rate.
Right.
Kind of a thing. Just how, we have lots of social media things that we could be putting out, maybe more than what we are right now. Is that, we just sort of send them to you with the sort of what it is that's going on or what we need to get out there, and then you'll take it from there?
Yeah, the idea could be, I've had it multifaceted with different clients. So it's say, hey, we have this initiative coming up, and you either call or we can make an intake form or something simple like that. This is the thing coming up. This is the details. What do you recommend? And then if maybe I can turn all of you into influencers in a way where you record something quick on your phone, you text it to me, we'll cut it up, make it beautiful, and then you can
What
launch
about
it.
like podcasts?
Podcasts are great. I think you have, I don't know, I know Bear River Live's been touching some of that too.
They do, and they do a really good job.
they
with
do.
it. Yeah,
And
but I'm just wondering if you,
so podcasting, for my day job, we work with a lot of different clients. What I find is it's best for long-term brand building, but it's not something that you're not going to get a ton of viewership or listenership because we're a small town, right? So the max numbers you'd ever get, if everybody in town was listening to it and like some adjacent friends, if you had the most entertaining podcast in the world, if you had the most entertaining podcast in the world, you'd get a couple thousand downloads. That's going to be like the best case scenario, maybe 10,000 downloads per week. So you're not doing it for just to get the broad expanse, but for those that are the most interested, it's a really good format, because even though everybody has such a short attention span with scrolling, most people are throwing on a podcast while they're doing the dishes or mowing the lawn, or they're doing, cleaning the house. So if you have that as one of your verticals, it's a really good way to make sure that your message can be heard. There has to be that element of entertainment value, the down-to-earth nature, but the benefit of that is also
Or if there's key issues that need to be expanded upon, right?
Exactly.
Where there's a lot of detail, and and we as a city council want to communicate a bigger data set of facts to the public. That would be the way to do it, is via the podcast format. Otherwise, it'd be shorts.
The benefit of a podcast is it trims up really well to those shorts as well. So you could dive into that hour-and-a-half conversation about an initiative, and then we can take 10 different snippets of those to get the highlights, and that could be really nice to get the best of both worlds.
so you'll just, we give you the information, we upload it, is I think what I heard you say about web content.
Yeah.
We'll upload it, okay.
Yep. We'll give you either a folder or something, find something encrypted that you guys have, like either a Dropbox or a Google Drive or whatever suite or Microsoft. And then once you upload it in there, we'll take it, edit it, give it back to you edited, and it's ready to roll.
Oh, wow.
As part of an agreement or whatnot that we would probably establish with you, is there turnaround times and those kind of
Instantly.
Yeah, like every second of every day, all the time. So finding a good cadence would be good to see how often the rollout is, because I imagine Some weeks there will be a lot of things, and other weeks there will be very little. So it'll ebb and flow. And so some agencies, when they do it, it goes in a queue and we just finish the queue as it goes. I like doing batches at times where it makes sense. It's like, say, hey, here's this podcast we just did. Let's get 5 shorts off of it, turn it around in let's say less than a week, and make sure that we have all those ready to go. And then find a good cadence that you guys can have something that's expected, that also doesn't burn us out, but also makes sure that we have a good rollout with consistency.
How do you deliver the shorts content? Is it so we'd be able to populate Facebook, Instagram, all the different?
Yeah, so we'll deliver them as the individual videos, either in Frame.io or we'll do a Google Drive folder or whatever file management, cloud storage you guys use, but a cloud storage would be best. So we use Google Drive when we deliver generally for clients. It makes it really easy. Just say hey, this is the folder of deliverables. You click in there, anybody can download them, and then they're ready to rock for all the platforms. I can give you some recommendations on platforms that can throw them out to all the things. So you just post it once and then it goes to 10 different things. And Bo's nodding his head because he probably knows the ones too. So.
And could we oversaturate you and?
You could, and then I'll let you know if that becomes the case. And it's okay, sweet. We can only
Cool down a little bit.
If there's 45 videos that you drop on day one, it's all right, we're gonna chip at this. But if there's
or increase the budget.
Right. Either increase the budget or just roll out the timeline on that is kind of the idea. So if it does become oversaturated, we'll just communicate. And so
Have you met Zach? Zach Lefevre? Okay.
Yep. That was I know he's been doing that stuff too. So
good.
He's awesome.
I think the best part about it is that we get a professional that makes all this content that can use our branding book better than anyone else in the city can. But at the very end, there is a city employee that's going to be posting it and overseeing it and reviewing it.
I like that too.
And that allows to make sure that there's at least a second set of eyes on it before it hits the web.
Who would be that person?
I think right now it would make most sense to be Zach, where he's been over the social media, but I'm up for the discussion of changing those roles or doing a shared thing so it's just not on one person's burden.
Are we also involved with Jessica? Is she
Yes.
been doing?
Yeah. Yeah, she is the bearer of her live. I've been working with her once a month at least.
I haven't seen some of those. They're great.
Yeah. So.
And do we have budget in now for this?
Yes. Yeah, we should be okay there because.
We've made some other personnel changes recently.
And so with that personnel change, we would have the budget
some
to cover
funding
this.
available.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a discussion. We can work on this and try to get a PSA put together rather quickly, but it was a topic I just wanted to approach as we get into budget season.
I'd like to see more on it and move forward.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
With Zach on one.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Just let me know. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, this was done by in town, Mountain Valley.
Oh, not that group.
Not that.
He's not even paying attention.
I know.
to
He
his
was in
side
bed.
remarks.
We should require his band to
Okay, Dustin.
But I have no idea what.
We need to require his band to play.
Go through the Open and Public Meetings Act and Municipal Officers Ethics Training. So, Dustin, we're going to turn the time over to you and train us.
Whatever excitement you've had during this meeting is about to be tripled by this stuff. This is the fascination level is high right here. ITs, this is pretty dense stuff, but we've got a couple of videos that I think will help and I want to make sure that I put out there that these are not things I created, but the state has created. I think the state auditor's office did this first one. So Cynthia, if you don't mind just hitting play on that.
City attorney.
Smith and Pauline Smith, that's their son.
Hey, this is just like last night's inauguration. We have technical difficulties.
I'm not gonna sing a cappella though, Wes.
And Carrie just started singing, so Dustin, you just go ahead.
It's not happening.
America.
That would be your first post to your social media.
Yeah.
Do well for the city brand.
Listen to this attorney.
Come to city meetings. Listen to this guy sing.
Several years ago, when Councilman Reese was on the council, I showed him this clip, but there was a city council meeting and one of the council members was mic'd up and he left the meeting to go relieve himself and forgot to turn off his mic.
Oh, I remember that.
It was on their YouTube channel and it was, anyway.
I remember that.
It was an open meeting for sure.
Government transparency.
Transparency.
Yeah.
Transparency.
You have it in front of you there?
So I'm wondering if
You just want to tell us? Or at least start?
Yeah. So you guys are pretty familiar with, and Lindsay and Cynthia cut me off when it's ready. Just let me know. But, okay. I don't think you guys are a pretty experienced council, and so I think you've seen most of these things. But annually, you're to receive training on the Open Meetings Act, and the reality is that Cynthia and Lindsay take care of a lot of the noticing. So prior, at least 24 hours before a meeting, we have to notice it up. If there's ever going to be a quorum, even if it were maybe like a committee meeting or something like that, if there were going to be a quorum of the council members there, then we would need to publish it as an open meeting and allow the public to be able to attend.
Got it. I don't know
Got
how
it?
loud it'll be, but.
So what's the Open Public Meetings Act? It's the state law that ensures government actions and deliberations are openly conducted. Before we continue, keep in mind that this video is an overview, and exceptions may exist based on your entity type. So what's considered an open and public meeting? It's when a governing body majority meets to discuss or act upon government business. It includes the meetings sometimes referred to as workshops or executive sessions. Regular meetings, public hearings, electronic meetings, and emergency meetings are all open and public meetings. Open and public meetings don't include chance or social meetings. A public hearing is a type of open and public meeting where citizens have a reasonable opportunity to speak. Public hearings happen when a government adopts a budget or imposes or increases taxes or fees. An electronic meeting is a type of open and public meeting that's convened electronically, such as via phone or the internet. Remember, the governing body must adopt a resolution, rule, or ordinance allowing and governing electronic meetings. An open and public meeting may be closed to discuss any of the following: a person's character, competence, or health, security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, collective bargaining, litigation, purchase, sale, or lease of property if an open discussion would prevent the entity from completing the transaction on the best terms, investigations of criminal misconduct, and private or protected information per the Utah Procurement Code, including trade secrets. 2/3 of the governing body need to vote yes to close a meeting. Quick math lesson. 2 divided by 3 equals 66.7%. Let's say your governing body has 5 members. If 3 out of the 5 members vote yes, that equals 60%, which is not equal to or greater than 66.7%, which means you're 1 member short, and instead need 4 out of 5 members to vote yes. During a closed meeting, a governing body can't interview someone applying to fill an elected position, discuss filling a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, discuss the character, competence, or health of a person whose name was submitted for consideration to fill a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, or
approve any ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment. If a closed meeting is discussing a person's character, competence, or health, or security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, no recording or minutes are required. However, the presiding member needs to sign a sworn written statement stating such. If the closed meeting is held for any other reason, a recording must be made. Emergency meetings may be held to discuss an urgent matter due to unforeseen circumstances. In order to hold the meeting, the best notice that's feasible is provided of the time, location, and topics to be considered. An attempt is made to contact all governing body members, and the governing body majority approves the meeting. Entities that hold regular meetings need to provide notice at least annually of the year's meeting schedule. As always, the notice must include date, time, and place. For entities that don't hold regularly scheduled regular meetings, 24 hours notice must be provided. All meetings, whether regularly scheduled in advance over the course of the year or scheduled as needed, must provide no less than 24 hours notice of meeting agendas. If a public hearing is held, public notice requirements change. Make sure to distinguish between regular meeting notice requirements and public hearing notice requirements. For regular meetings, an entity is only required to notify a newspaper and doesn't need to pay to publish a notice. For public hearings, notice must be published in at least one issue of a newspaper. If a newspaper of general circulation isn't available, written notice is posted in 3 public places within the entity's boundaries. Regular meetings require 24 hours notice. Public hearings require 7 days notice. For both regular meetings and public hearings, written notice must be posted at the principal office of the governing body, or, if no such office exists, at the building where the meeting will be held. Governing bodies must also provide notice of open and public meetings on the Public Notice website at publicnotice.utah.gov. By posting on the website and providing the email of the local newspaper, governing bodies can also meet the requirement to notify a newspaper. However, other requirements such as publishing in a newspaper still apply. Typically, posting on the Public Notice website is done by the records officer, recorder, or clerk. However, it's the governing body's responsibility to ensure notice is provided. State Archives has prepared a training manual and quick guide for owners and posters, as well as training videos that can be accessed at their website at archives.utah.gov. If your entity is increasing a fee or undergoing truth in taxation for a property tax increase, be aware that there are additional notice and posting requirements. Public meeting agendas need to include reasonably specified topics to be considered, with each topic listed under a separate agenda item on the meeting agenda. The governing body may not consider a topic in an open meeting that wasn't on the agenda. If a new topic not on the agenda is raised by the public during an open meeting, the governing body may discuss the topic. However, final action may not be taken on the new topic during that meeting. Meeting minutes and an audio recording are required for all open meetings, with limited exceptions. When an open or closed meeting is required to be recorded, it must be unedited and contain all the portions of the meeting. Recordings of open meetings must be made available within 3 days. Every entity needs to establish procedures for the governing body's approval of minutes. Pending minutes are written minutes prepared in draft form and are subject to change before being approved by the governing body. Pending minutes must contain a clear indication, such as a draft or pending watermark, that the governing body hasn't yet approved the minutes and that they're subject to change. Pending minutes must be made available within 30 days. Approved minutes are written minutes of a meeting that have been approved by the governing body. Approved minutes are the official record of the meeting and must be made available within 3 business days. Whoever is responsible for taking the minutes during meetings, typically the records officer, recorder, or clerk, needs to be familiar with what OPMA requires be contained in the minutes. When a governing body closes a meeting, the following must be publicly announced and entered into the minutes of the open meeting at which the closed meeting was approved. The reason or reasons for holding the closed meeting, the location where the closed meeting will be held, and the vote of each member of the governing body either for or against the motion to close the meeting. The recording and any minutes must include the date, time, and location of the meeting, the names of the governing body members present and absent, and the names of all others present except where disclosure would infringe on the confidentiality necessary to fulfill the original purpose of closing the meeting. For more information, access our local government resource center at resources.auditor.utah.gov.
Are there any questions that, again, I think this is things that intuitively we know, and then also things that each of the council members have learned over the course of your service. I know Councilman Lewis, you're relatively new to this, but I think a lot of this is pretty intuitive to you as well, based on your background. But any questions?
It seemed a little confusing when it came to replacing a council person. And so we'll be going through that here in a few months. So walk us through that process, and can any part of that process be in a closed meeting?
So the process is that applications would be submitted to the city council, to the city. But as you're going through that process of choosing a new council member to fill a midterm vacancy, it cannot be done in closed session. It needs to be done in open session, including the voting.
Okay.
It needs to be done, and I recognize that can be, for lack of a better term, awkward. But it's the requirement of state law here.
Okay, and so you would recommend that for any kind of discussion about the candidates that we just don't go into closed session, period?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Any other questions for Dustin?
Lindsay had talked about ethics training as well, but I think, are we up against it a little bit, time-wise, or?
We might be. We have one more presentation, and then we need actually to exercise the closed session, so.
We'll hold off on that, and Lindsay can schedule on another one. I think, Mayor, did you want me to stick around for?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, thanks, you guys, appreciate it.
Okay, Nate, you're on. Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you.
Is it appropriate to give you guys some paper? Will I get tackled by somebody if I walk up there?
Look around, you scared of anybody in here? Nope.
Not so much, really.
Attaboy. Let your conscience be your guide.
So I did have them include some documents in the packet that you guys sent out, but the reason I'm here is so the Bearwood Association of Governments is updating their mitigation plan. And so following up on strategies that we had listed as a city from the 2020 plan to either declare the ones that were in, or the current ones finished, or the future ones still future. So the ones that were specific to the council, the first one in the upper of the current section, I think it's page 18 on the packet. Yeah, so the second one down and the current one was the landslide and liquefaction. I wasn't sure that's, so I'm just going by the responsible entity column. So I don't know if there was any progress made in that. I know it was a low priority and it's dated 2026.
So what are you asking?
I need an update, I guess, on all this stuff that's assigned to the council, and then there's a couple to the city manager as well.
Well, I guarantee you that we won't be able to give you any answers because nothing's been done for 8 years on this or more. And so,
is there a chance that anything is complete then, maybe, that I could just even take off this list that you guys recognize? Like I said, the responsible entity column, if you just look for the council and the city manager, I've met with Public Works and met with the fire, and we've squared away their items.
So that flood one you've talked to Paul about?
And we bumped that out to, Paul felt like 2030 was a pretty adequate time for that and changed it to a low priority.
Just so I don't have to try to figure this out, when was this prepared?
This was from the 2020 study.
Okay. I can pretty well, as far as I know, nothing's been done on any of these for the council.
For several years.
Since 2020.
Yeah, since
Yeah.
2020.
We haven't done anything on earthquake, and we have not done anything on landslide and yeah.
Would it be appropriate then to just update these with a current time frame? Or how would you guys like me to proceed with the mitigation study as far as those items?
I think you ought to put them on the agenda and we ought to talk about them. Don't you think?
I think so. I think, I don't think we're really prepared to.
Not today.
But I think that, I mean, we need to go forward, all of these issues here. I know that, for example, I sat in on a earthquake, mitigation sort of a thing, and we talked about what, how we would go about dealing with a severe earthquake. I know we've done some of this kind of stuff, but it's been so long that, be nice to be able to have a
Phase 2 of this study, once we're done with these strategies, is to work on the critical facilities, which is also part of that earthquake.
This one you've got in here on the seismic for facades and all that, well, that would be easy. We'll just make sure we include that in any kind of facade grants or whatnot we do on Main Street when we move forward with that. Because we haven't done any of those facade grants, and so I'm glad this is brought to our attention because now we can make sure this is added
Yeah.
to that component when we do it. Does that help you?
What he's looking for really is a revised timeframe. Not to brag, but I have checked off one of these things, and we have a city emergency management director, emergency manager here. So that's one for me. Now the rest of these, though, it's both ongoing and a process of constant renewal as we look through these things and as funding becomes available. What Nate's looking for with all of this is to be able to report back to the folks that he reports back to that we are still aware of these things and are planning to work on them or not. If this is a low enough priority that we're not going to focus on it, they would want to know that as well.
That's a tough one for tonight. I think we're on the right track of, we need to get him on the agenda or one of these earlier meetings or something, not just one of these 15, 20-minute deals, and really knuckle down and see where we're at, because some of these other things is gonna have to be budgeted for.
I still think the seismic one for facades, we can check that off as done. We're just going to add it to our plan, and that's done.
Does that count for the facades that's up now, though?
No, any facade grants.
Oh.
More specifically with Tremont City, contemplated facade grant including seismic retrofits.
Yeah, I see that.
And so this is the good time to get that one in because we're starting to talk about Main Street and we can include that in our plan. So I think we could check that one off as we will include this in our plan.
And I think the drought one is another one that we've spent a lot of time working our way through with the secondary water and so forth.
Right.
Perhaps even the flood. We've done a lot with that issue as well. So.
Oh, I had something.
I was just gonna ask, is Jeff the one that's putting together the standards for facade grants?
Yeah.
We'd want to make sure he knows
Form-based code stuff.
to get that into that.
Hey,
stuff.
Jeff? will you include this seismic retrofit on the parapet walls and that in our facade grant
Standards.
language when we put that together? Okay, thanks.
Let me ask.
Done.
Okay.
Just for Nate, what would we do on the liquefaction? What could we do for that? I mean, I think there's a little bit of stuff that's a big broad. I don't know what you could even do.
I don't know, because in that study, basically, it indicates the entire Bear River Valley is subject to that. So from their point of view, don't build here, basically, is,
Yeah.
now it's all gonna turn to soup, I guess, in that big earthquake.
You're either sliding down or tipping over.
Go ahead, Blair.
We still already have, I mean, according to the paper, there's already over 2,600 homes, probably a lot more since 2020. I just see some of it's like
Out of our
crazy,
control.
realistic stuff.
When do you have to report this back?
They'd like it back by the end of this month. I've only had this month to work on, they gave me a month to work on it.
Do they? Our next meeting would be that first Tuesday in February. Do you think we can put it off till then?
They'll get what they get. I mean, if that's what we need to do to get them
Yeah.
accurate information, I think they would be fine with that,
I'm
honestly.
hearing
Just
correctly.
wondering What else, but see, we only have 3 items on here he needs. That's all
Right.
from us. And
Unless
so
there's
we've
any
answered one.
future- Any other programs that you guys are working on that aren't on
Yeah.
here? And that's this other list this is a list of items that they would like to know about, so if we have projects as far as like air quality, agriculture, that kind of stuff, they would like to know about that kind of mitigation strategies as well, if those are in place or planned. But
This other earthquake one, construct seismic upgrades to Tremont City's most vulnerable public buildings as identified. We haven't done anything on that, but would we do that as we build new ones, or are we gonna retrofit? Hey, Jeff, you'll need to come in and join this.
Back here or up here?
Either. So, there's one on here, it's construct seismic upgrades to Tremont City's most vulnerable public buildings as identified.
All of them.
Correct. Adopted by, this preliminary analysis identifies Tremont City Library as the most vulnerable to seismic activities. So, what would we do?
There is, I'm sorry, Jeff, there is in other pages of this study, this is a several, 20 or 30 page long document. And they went through each building and identified the type of construction in the building. And there's only one that's not reinforced masonry, and that's the library. So in an event, that's going to be the one that's going to have the most potential damage. So that's why it's on the low-hanging fruit to be replaced. The rest of them, you saw from Curtis's expected lifespan for a building. You're looking 30 to 50 years, depending on the type of construction and the growth patterns that we're seeing in employment and other things. So we'll want to look at the rest of them too. But from an emergency standpoint, the library is the highest priority.
Because it's the oldest building.
And it's unreinforced masonry.
Right.
Yeah. So whether we retrofit or replace or both, that's an open question. We are looking at some funding sources, by the way. There's something I just came aware of. There's a rural Department of Agricultural grant that you can get to help pay for some public buildings if you're in a certain sized community, and we are that certain size, and so we can look into things like that to help pay for some of these replacements. I don't know how much they give, but we're looking at, just to give you an idea, we're looking at about $500 a square foot on replacement for some of these structures. So it's expensive.
I would say too, even if the building stands, I think there are some general materials used in the construction of most of these buildings that would make accessibility after, even if you had partial damage, might make accessibility not an option. This building, for example, has asbestos in the ceiling, so if there was any kind of damage where that came down, even though it didn't fall or it wasn't completely ruined, it's not one that becomes accessible due to the health hazard.
What if we updated the time frame on that to 2026 or something like that? That'd be appropriate for the library.
I think we could start doing something at 2026.
Is there a point that it becomes condemned and we can't use it anymore?
If it falls over.
Yeah.
We're the ones who would do the condemning anyway, so.
So we have this building, we have the fire department, we have the library, we have
Police.
I think the senior center would be close, because that would have been, I guess that was early 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The hard part with the senior center is where it wasn't really
95.
built by, we aren't really sure how it was built or to what standards, where it was a private structure, so that one's kind of a question mark. I don't think it's probably, from what Nate's getting at, I definitely would put the library as the top spot, but it quickly spots 2 and 3 and 4 are tied up with some of our other structures.
Well, I think putting 2026 is great on that, and then let's have the discussion during the year of what it's gonna take, and then we can decide what we're gonna do. Because I don't think we can make any decisions on that right now.
Well, if that's all right with you guys, I'll just bump the dates on these projects that are listed as current, and we'll just leave them as current projects. And
Okay.
Yeah, we need to see the capital project schedule before we can make decisions like that.
Yeah.
That schedule's critical.
All right.
And if you're curious, there was a study, it was done back in 2012, but I think all the buildings are still the same. It was resolution number 12-49, has got all the information on each one of the city buildings and what they felt like their vulnerabilities and stuff were.
All right.
Probably pull that up, can't we, just as a reference? Pretty easy.
What was that resolution again?
12-49.
All right, 49.
that was in 2012.
Yeah.
I also
That's the good thing about having them in resolutions.
Yeah. Yeah, they're easy to find.
If you can find them.
They'll find them.
You have anything else for us, Nate?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Next, Mayor.
All right. We need to go into a closed session. We've had training on how to get this going. It falls within the confines or qualifies for closed meetings, so I
I'll make a
entertain.
motion, we go into closed session.
I second it.
Motion by Wes and seconded by Lyle Vance. All in favor?
Aye.
Go into
Blair's
closed
an
session.
aye.